What's up, everybody? Welcome in Seth Floyd Show. We're getting after it. Off season, there is no off season. It's just a grind. It's always a grind. And here we go, talking more 49er football. We got division rounds coming up. I wasn't going to make any predictions, but man, I'm excited. I love division round. I love all NFL playoffs. It sucks when the 49ers aren't in it, but man, I'm excited. I don't think the Texans have a chance against the Chiefs. I hope I'm wrong. I hope maybe they've just they'll start catching fire. Maybe DeMeco Ryans has the game plan of his life on defense. I'm going Chiefs in that one. Bills, Ravens, I'm going Bills at home, okay? Bills at home. I just think it's Josh Allen's year. And Lamar Jackson's kind of in that mode of like, he's got to prove it to me in the playoffs before I really give him the benefit of the doubt against a better quarterback or same level tier quarterback, however you want to say it. But Josh Allen's my guy. I'm riding with the Bills. NFC games, man, Lions, Commanders, I'm hoping, because I want the Lions to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC. I hope by the fourth quarter, they're up 4 touchdowns and they're cruising. I think the Lions are going to handle them. Great story from the Commanders. Their trajectory is like this, but I just think it's the Lions' year, especially after how disappointing last year ended for them against the Niners. I think they're going to the NFC Championship game. And then Eagles, Rams, man, I know I'm a hater. I hate both these teams. I hope they both lose. I'm going Eagles at home, that run game. The Rams looked amazing against the Vikings. Credit to them. I think this Eagles team, outdoors, in the cold, the way they run the football, I think it's going to give the Rams problems. So my AFC Championship is Chiefs-Bills. Okay, heck of it. They're going to be the most watched NFL game, not the Super Bowl in NFL history. So the most watched game that's not the Super Bowl in NFL history, if that happens, is my prediction. And then Eagles-Lions in Detroit, that'll be a great game too. Those are my predictions. We're talking 49ers. 49er fans, as you know, you're waiting for news to drop about that defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator, but we all care more about the defensive coordinator. It sounds like it's pretty obvious. It is Robert Saleh if he does not get a head coaching job. Okay, as long as Robert Saleh doesn't get a head coaching job, he will be the defense coordinator. It's a little surprising at how much interest teams have in him interviewing for the head coaching job, in my opinion, because the Jets situation was so bad. But I guess teams look at it and they just say, man, that whole organization is a dumpster fire.
Some people see a dumpster fire and do nothing but watch the spectacle.
No one can be successful there. And so they want to give him a shot. He interviewed with the Jaguars. He's going to interview with the Cowboys, it sounds like. I think the Raiders is where he's also interviewing. So, man, we'll see. I don't think any of them are going to hire him, but it's not the strongest coaching cycle. The big names are Ben Johnson. Vrabel already got hired, so there's still Ben Johnson out there. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Lions. And then who do you got? Mike McCarthy. I bet he ends up with the Bears. That would be my prediction. But man, so I guess maybe it does make sense that Robert Saleh would be a name to consider if you don't think the Jets know what they're doing. Anyway, while we wait for that, I've been considering and thinking like, man, what do the 49ers have to do to be a real threat in 2025? Not just make the playoffs, but a real threat, okay? And I identified, there's a lot of things, but I identified 3 things that I think makes them a Super Bowl contender again in 2025. Here are my 3 things, okay? First, and the first 2 are very related, okay? But these are the things they have to do between free agency and the draft. Those are combined as you add players. These are the things you have to do. First, between free agency and the draft, you need to find 2 immediate starters for your offensive line. Now, knowing what I know about Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, I imagine that they're going to spend higher draft capital on the defensive side of the ball, defensive line, than the offensive line. I think on day 1 of free agency, okay, they're going to go get a starting center immediately. I think we can all agree. Jake Brendel, he was banged up, whatever. He just did not play well enough, and you cannot have that again. And they're going to go find a center. Kyle Shanahan's done that before. Weston Richburg, he's done it with Alex Mack, okay? And along that line, okay, the Falcons, who ran a Sean McVay offense this year, similar to what Shanahan does, has a center that's going to be a free agent. Drew Dahlman, okay? Drew Dahlman. He is 26 years old, probably be 27 next season when the season starts. But he would be plug and play, fantastic pickup. I don't know what the market is. I know centers are not expensive. generally in free agency. It feels like a position that they are going to spend. And Drew Dahlman, he's young. He's not like on the verge of retirement like Alex Mack was. He is young. He could be your starter for the next 3 to 5 years, easy. Give him some kind of deal. I would love that. Another name in free agency would be Kevin Zeitler, okay? He's playing with the Lions right now. He's a guard, okay? I think he would be a great addition. I think he's 34, so he's a little older, but in offensive lineman years, like you can play till your late 30s, and you're not looking for a guard for the next 10 years. You need a guy for like 2 years to really stabilize this thing, okay? You have Dominic Puni on one side, you get Drew Dahlman at center or another capable center, and then Zeitler to play left guard or right guard, wherever they want to put him. I think Aaron Banks is gone. I think for what teams will pay for him, it's probably not worth it, okay? He's a young guy. He's played for Shanahan. He went to the Super Bowl as a starting guard. I bet he's going to be outpriced for what we know about him. I think he's like going to be like a McGlinchey, where he's definitely not the worst lineman in the world, but for what teams are willing to pay for him, they're going to let him go. Regardless, okay, one thing I want to say to 49er fans is they're going to add linemen in the draft. But if I had to guess, you're going to be disappointed. If you're like an O-line diehard, my guess is they are not going to use that first pick on an offensive lineman. I don't think they will. I think you saw it last year. Not necessarily the draft, but like their lack of moves for the offensive line kind of shows their what they think is important. And I think historically, you've seen this, they've spent more money on the defensive side of the ball. Javon Hargrave, they drafted Bosa, which was an obvious. They drafted Kinlaw, which was a whiff, but they still drafted him. They drafted Solomon Thomas, okay? They have spent money and added defensive line. At the deadline, they're always looking for defensive linemen at the trade deadline. I expect them to go some type of defense in that early round, and I don't think they're going to spend high on a tackle. Now, two things I'll say. First, I'm sorry to disappoint you 49er fans. I'm positive Kyle Shanahan thinks a lot more of Colton McKivitz than most of us do, okay? Kyle Shanahan looks at Colton McKivitz and just says, look, I can get it done with him. We went to the Super Bowl with him. We didn't lose the Super Bowl because of Colton McKivitz. We had more interior line problems. If I had to guess, Kyle Shanahan's like, man, we're just going to run it back with Colton McKivitz. Now, if you're sitting at 11 and you think Kelvin Banks is generational, or if you think Will Campbell's generational, or, oh gosh, is it Joshua Thomas? It's the tackle from Ohio State. I want to say Joshua Thomas. Could be wrong. Josh, fix it right now. On the screen if I got his name mixed up. Regardless, the tackle from Ohio State, is it Simmons? Oh gosh. Anyway, I think it's Thomas or Simmons. Sorry, blanking right now. I should have written it down. Whatever. He's the one that tore his ACL, so who knows what if you think one of those tackles is like generational and you're like, oh my gosh, hindsight is 2020, like these guys would be picked top 5 when we look 3 years down the road. If you think he's going to be that good, or you think he's going to be like a Joe Alt, then yeah, I think at 11 they'll take him. I don't think any of those guys are going to be in that tier. My guess is they try to trade back from 11. So that's what I think. But I think you got to have 2 bona fide starters. Now, you can get starters on the interior line without, you don't need to use a first round pick, okay? There are guards in this class. There are centers in this class that the good news is the line play was so low last year that you could find guys, just like we did with Dominic Puni in the 3rd round, you could find guys like that and draft them in the 2nd or 3rd rounds and plug and play, and they'd probably play much better than Jake Brendel did. Regardless, you got to find 2 in my eyes. You got to find a center and you've got to find another guard. I know we all want a right tackle, but my guess is McKivitz plays right tackle, and they find a new center and a new guard. Now, a lot of people have talked, you draft Kelvin Banks or you draft Will Campbell, and you put them at guard and let McKivitz have another year at right tackle, and then eventually you slide Kelvin Banks or Will Campbell out. That's an option too, but you got to find a couple starters. Number 2, same thing, just opposite side of the ball. You need to find me 2 starting D linemen or 2 like rotational guys that are going to play as much as anybody, if that makes sense. Guys you can count on that aren't just taking 5 snaps a game, but they're taking like half the snaps. And I'm thinking interior D-line. Interior D-line. That killed us this year. Hargrave wasn't great. Okay, he definitely didn't live up to his contract, but him being out hurt because he was a big body, he had experience, okay, and him being out really hurt. Him being gone really hurt. They've got to find somebody. Now, I think there's a handful of guys in this draft that are going to be really tempting, and I bet money that one of our first 2 picks is on one of these guys, okay? I don't know about any of the free agents. The only free agent that really enticed me, just thinking, I don't think they're going to spend huge money in free agency like we did with Hargrave, but DJ Jones. All you 49er fans, you know, DJ Jones is a free agent this year. I have wanted him back since we let him go. Bring him home. I would love a DJ Jones reunion on this defensive line. That's exactly the type of player you need. Okay, someone who plays well in run defense. If you do any of these mock drafts, which I'm going to do a mock draft episode, I almost did one tonight, but I just wanted I need another week to do more kind of research. It is so, all these different rankings. So you in the comments, tell me, what pre-draft rankings do you trust the most? Because I look at different rankings and they have defensive linemen all over the board. All over the board as far as like from ranking to ranking. You have like Derek Harmon from Oregon. Okay, some of them have him at like number 2 or 3 defensive lineman in the draft, and some of them have him at like 12. So like, how do you? I don't know. I don't know who to trust. I mean, I know, like I always kind of trust Todd McShay, but are there like other of these draft sites that you really trust? Like you could go off PFF, but a lot of people don't like PFF. I've been looking at draftbuzz.com. That one's good. It's a nice website, so I always go to it because it's easy to use and I like the interface. But regardless, there's a handful of linemen in this draft. And one that is non-debatable, Mason Graham from Michigan is the number 1 interior defensive lineman. Now, I don't think there is a real chance. There's like a 10% chance, maybe a 5% chance that Mason Graham is there at 11. But if he's there at like 7 or 8, are you willing to trade up? Because I would. I think he's the real deal. I think he's going to be really good. I'm not saying he's going to be Aaron Donald, but I think he's a guy that you could draft, immediately put in, and he'll be better, give you more production and impact plays than anyone gave you at that spot this past year. He would be great. Abdul Carter, of course, is like the unicorn. He ain't going to be there at 11. He might be the first player taken in the draft, probably second. I don't think he gets past 3. But Mason Graham, if you do those mock drafts, like every now and then, maybe a little more than every now and then, I'd say like 25% of the time, like he's there. He's there at 11. And if he gets to 9 or 10, maybe you trade up for him. He would be fantastic. Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, the other interior defensive lineman there, he's not as highly touted as Mason Graham, but he could be pretty good. Plug and play, that would be awesome. But you have to find me 2 solid starters or rotation pieces that are like, they can plug and play. They are immediate upgrades from what we were last year. So you have 2 offensive linemen, upgraded that side of the ball, 2 defensive linemen, upgrade that side of the ball, and you're rocking and rolling. I've been on record. If you just got 25% better play this season from your offense and defensive lines, which is not that much. Like we had at least 2 very under average, below average players on the offensive line with Jake Brendel. You can say McKivitz, and even Aaron Banks didn't have a great year. Brendel was the worst of the worst. If you just had like competent center play, and then you had just like one good run stuffer on defense, not even like a Pro Bowler, just like a guy who comes in and really helps out in the run, like you are probably a 9, maybe a 10-win team. We still had a ton of injuries, but better line of scrimmage play on both sides of the ball was the number 1 problem this year in my eyes, outside of like the injuries. Okay, so do those 2 things and you immediately become better. And here's my last thing. Okay, you have to find a suitable tight end to complement George Kittle. And just more thinking past 2025, you have to find a tight end that can be tight end 1 for the 49ers when George Kittle retires. Now, I think in my eyes, George Kittle has 3 more years of what he gave you this year, if I had to guess. Just dominant play, just a monster on the line, catches the ball, breaks tackles. Like I think I can safely assume he's going to do that for at least another 3 years. Could be even more. Could be maybe 4 or 5. He's going to play longer than that, but I'm just saying what you got this year, I would expect it for another 3 years. But after that, you need a real number 1 tight end that can take over for Kittle. Now, you might be saying, look, if he's got 3 to 5 years left, like this is too early to do that. And maybe, but one thing I know for sure is if you want to see this Shanahan offense underperform, be less efficient, and just make you pull your hair out, okay? Trot out a roster out there without a true number one. Now, you're not going to replace Kittle. He is like a unicorn, man. I don't care what anyone says. I think he's the best tight end in the league because of his ability to block. Shout out to Travis Kelce, who he's older now, so it's just like a different conversation. But Kittle, man, right now is running away with it because he blocks so well. Now, Brock Bowers is fantastic. I don't know how well he blocks, but what he's done is amazing, and maybe he's going to take that. I'm just saying what Kittle can do is incredible. And if you don't have a guy who can be above average and just be looked at as like a tight end one, the Shanahan offense will go away. It'll go away. So they have to address that, and they've kind of tried in the last few years, but they have struck out, okay? They have struck out. So I don't think you're going to draft Tyler Warren. I'll say that. But I do want to say this, okay? Here is why Tyler Warren is so enticing. I've already done a video on it, but I think I found a better way to put it into words, okay? And it is this. If you draft, there's no debate really on how good Tyler Warren is. Like, everything he does is going to translate to the NFL. The floor on Tyler Warren is so high, okay? He's not Brock Bowers. He's not going to catch 115 balls, okay? But he's pretty dang good. He can block. He can catch. He's huge. He's a really good athlete, played Wildcat quarterback for Penn State. The only reason why people don't want the Niners to pick him at 11 is because the tight end position is so undervalued. So here's what I mean. Like, franchise tackles, you get in the top 10, maybe at 11. If Calvin Banks, if Will Campbell, whoever, maybe at 11, okay? Edge rushers, you get in the top 10, top 5. They become franchise guys. Tight ends, where was Brock Bowers picked last year? And he's like the best rookie tight end we've seen, I guess, since Sam Laporta, who was also a first rounder. He was taken at 12. And he's like the best rookie tight end we've ever seen in our lives. And everyone knew he was going to be that good. Everyone knew he was going to be that good, guys. And he still went to 12. Why? Because it's a devalued position. You don't spend the highest draft capital on it. So if I'm Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, like, we need a tackle. We need a tackle. We got to take over for Trent at some point. It'd be nice to have another really good offensive lineman at right tackle. Until Trent retires, we need a tackle. But Calvin Banks or a Will Campbell is a way more risky pick than Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren's floor is as high as anybody's in this draft. He's as close to a can't miss in this draft as you could have, in my opinion. And if I'm John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, we pick at 11. We have to get a guy that is an impact player. And trust me, Tyler Warren will be an impact player for whatever team he's on. And if he's with the Niners, he's not going to sit on the bench behind George Kittle. I promise you, they're going to have 2 tight end sets, and Tyler Warren's presence will be felt, and he will make impact plays. So I'm just saying, they're looking at this, and if they are not sold that Calvin Banks or Will Campbell can be the dude, they're just like, he could be good, but we have question marks. They're going to be tempted to go Tyler Warren because it's such a safe pick. And you'll take Tyler Warren, and I imagine in 3 years, you're going to be like, holy crap, 49ers have George Kittle, who might be the best tight end in the game, and then you've got Tyler Warren, who's like a top 5 tight end in the game, and they play on the field at the exact same time. Sign me up for that, regardless. I'm just saying that's why it's so tempting, because to me, he's the best tight end in the class. His floor is super high. He can do everything. The only reason he's fallen to at 11 is because nobody wants to take a tight end that high, but you know you're getting an impact player right away. I get why that's so tempting. I don't think they're going to do it, but I get why that's so tempting. If you're not going to take Tyler Warren, I love Harold Fannin Jr. He's not the best blocker we've ever seen. I think that they can get him to an average or above average blocking. He's not going to block like Kittle, but he could be really good in our offense. You wouldn't have to use a first rounder. Okay, you could use a second round pick. I don't think he's getting out of the second round, but I've seen mock drafts where he's in the third. Just depends how teams value his blocking, how high they value it. But he's a great athlete, tons of production, had like 17 catches in his bowl game. Is unbelievable. Another one that I really like is Gunnar Helm out of Texas. Okay, he's got a lot of experience. He didn't have a ton of production until his senior year. He caught like 7 touchdowns, like almost 600 receiving yards. Like 58 catches, something like that. Pretty good. And I think you can get him in a 3rd or 4th round, depending on how it all falls. Gunnar Helm would be more, he's just like a less exciting version of Tyler Warren. He's like 6'5". He's a better blocker than Harold Fannin Jr. Played at Texas, like he's been in big games, played good competition. Not the athlete that Tyler Warren is, but if you got him in the 3rd or 4th round, you'd probably be pretty excited. I think he could probably make an impact for you pretty quick, especially if he's not the number 1. That's what I got. You could also trade, as I said in a previous video, you could trade for Dawson Knox. Regardless, they have to figure out this tight end thing. So if you get 2 new starters on the offensive line that are improvements, you get 2 defensive interior guys. I know we all want the edge guys too, but 2 interior defensive linemen that can either start or rotate heavily. One of them's got to be a starter. You're not going to get 2 rotating guys and convince me that everything's fixed. One of them has to be a bona fide starter, whether it's in free agency or you get a Mason Graham or you get somebody that you think can plug and play. And there's a lot of D linemen in this draft. We didn't go through all the names. I'll go through them later. That'll be great. And then you find a bona fide tight end too that is a true receiving threat. This team, I promise you, and you got to nail the defensive coordinator hire, but if it's, let's assume it's Robert Saleh, like I know that's like a leap, you can't just assume, but let's just for the purpose of the video, if it's Robert Saleh and all these other things happen, you are competing in 2025. I'm not saying you're the favorites, I'm not saying you're going to be the 1 seed, but you're going to look similar to what you did in 2023 and we'll be rocking and rolling. So those are the things I'm looking for, okay? Free agency, the draft, fix those positions. Can't wait for the DC hire to just happen so we can stop stressing out about it. And Brock Purdy, sign that contract, man. I don't know what they're offering you yet. I don't know what is on the table, what they've done, but please get that thing signed so we can stop stressing. You guys are awesome. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. You guys are great. I'm going to do some mock drafts next week. That'll be cool. And yeah, playoff football this weekend. Let's go everyone but the Eagles and Rams. I'm out.